We continue now at the top of Daf Tzadi Chesam and Beis in Mesecheet Yevamos. This is Yevamos Daf 98b. The Gemara is continuing a brayso. It's talking about an individual who the pregnancy was shelo b'kedusha, but by the time he was born, it was b'kedusha. The mother had already converted, and so the halacha is he's not allowed to marry the maternal sister of his father. But the brayso says min ha'av. But if it's from the father's side, meaning the paternal sister of his father, yekayim, that marriage he is allowed to maintain. And now achos ha'em, let's say the sister of his mother, so min ha'em, so if it's the maternal sister of his mother, so again, if he marries her, yotzi, so he's not allowed to maintain that marriage, they have to separate. But min ha'af, but if it's the paternal sister of his mother, so that's a machlokas tanoim. Rabbi Meir omer yotzi, Rabbi Meir says they have to separate. V'chachamim omer mikayim, but the chachamim say that he can maintain that marriage again, because since it's paternal from the father's side, we generally say there's no problem, according to the chachamim. Shahaya Rabbi Meir omer, because Rabbi Meir would say, the reason why Rabbi Meir is strict in that case is because Rabbi Meir would say, Kol erva shi mishum sher ha'em, any situation of erva that has to do with the kinship of the mother. So in this case, we're talking about the sister of the mother, even though it's the paternal sister of the mother, it's still the sister of the mother, yotzi, so you have to separate in that situation. But Rabbi Meir continues, mishum ma'av, but anytime the relationship is a kinship through the father's side, so yekayim, so that relationship is allowed to be maintained. And the brayso continues, umutter be'eshes achiv me'imo. Now this individual, he's mutter to marry the wife of his brother. Let's say it's his maternal brother, that's going to be mutter. And the Bach says over here that you can take out the word me'imo. The point is that he's mutter with the wife of his brother. Uve'eshes achi aviv, and he's also mutter with the wife of the brother of his father. Ushar kol harayos mutaros lo, and all other situations of harayos are mutter to him. Leisuye eshes oav, that comes to include, let's say, the wife of his father. And then the brayso says further, Nasa Isha Ubita, let's say he marries a woman and her daughter. And Rashi over here explains, Nasa Isha Uvita, he married a woman and her daughter, Ager Dial Makoy. We're going on a regular ger over here. Shenasa Bioso Ovid Kochavim Isha Ubita means to say that while he was an idol worshiper, while he was a non-Jew, he married a woman and her daughter. V'nisgayru imo, and then they all converted together. The Ilu Hai Denolad B'Kedusha, if we're going on the case that the brayso started with, where he was Nolad B'Kedusha, Lo Nasa Isha Ubita, such a person certainly is not allowed to marry a woman and her daughter. That person is treated like a regular Jewish person, and that would be prohibited. Now maybe you'll say that the brayso means he married two converts, meaning the mother and the daughter they converted. The leslu korva, they're not really considered related to chakot and shanola dami, because since they're converted, they're considered like newborns. So lamali ger, but if that were the case, you don't have to talk about a ger. Afilu bi Yisrael nami matzil me'emar hachi. The brayso could have a case where Yisrael married these two women in that situation. So again, that's why it's clear we're talking about a regular ger who married a woman and her daughter, and they all converted together. And so the brayso continues, in such a situation, kones achas umotzi achas. He keeps one of the marriages can continue, but one of those he has to separate from. Rashi over here says, kones achas umotzi achas, de lo leisi lemishri bi Yisrael ishovita, because we don't want people to come to permit a Yisrael to marry a woman and her daughter, and so therefore we allow him to maintain only one of those marriages. And the brayso continues, lechatchila lo yichnos. Lechatchila, he shouldn't marry. Rashi over here says, lechatchila lo yichnos lekaman mefarsh. This line is going to be explained later. Mesa Ishto, now the brayso continues, let's say his wife dies, so then mutter b'chamo, so then he would be allowed to marry his mother-in-law, meaning the mother of his wife. Rashi over here says, mutter b'chamo, so d'chuli hai lo gazer rabbanon. The rabbanon don't make a gezerah to that extent already in that situation. This whole thing is a gezerah anyway, because we're talking about a situation of conversion. So again, if his wife dies, then he would be mutter b'chamoso. V'iko datani, but there are some that teach asur b'chamoso, that he's forbidden by the mother-in-law. Rashi says, pluksayu the argument over here will be explained later on. And we'll take a look back at a couple of Rashis. V'chachamim omrim yakayim. The chachamim in the brayso said if you have a situation of the sister of his mother, and it's the paternal sister of his mother, so then the chachamim say that can be maintained. Delo damyo la'achos ha'av min ha'em. That's not similar to a case of, let's say, the sister of the father, the maternal sister of the father. Devahi ikol migzar, because in that case there actually is a reason to make a gezerah. Mishum achoso min ha'em de damyula. People will get confused used to a situation of his own sister, his own maternal sister. But if you have a situation of the sister of the mother and it's the paternal sister of his mother, that's not similar to his own sister, his own maternal sister, so the Chachamim say that's fine. And the Braisa also said, that in this case he's permitted to marry the wife of his brother. We're talking about even in a situation of his brother and their brothers, their maternal brothers, and that brother was born while still in Ovid Kochavim. The Rabbanan don't say there's a Gzeira, because let's say you would have a situation where the brother would be born after him, after the mother already converted. And why do we make a Gzeira because of that case? When it comes to situations of relatives, so there we make these Gezeiras that in a situation before, while she was in Ovid Kochavim, we have to make a Gezeira to a case where she would already have been converted. But when you're talking about a situation of like Eishes Achiv, where the whole prohibition is only because of marriage, it's only because of Kiddushin, so lo Gazer, so there was no Gezeira, so therefore, again, if that brother was born before the mother had converted and was while he was in Ovid Kochavim, so then in that situation, Eishes Achiv is not going to be a problem. And so the Gemara continues, Katani Mihas, but don't we see in the Braisa nevertheless as follows, Mutter be'eshes achiv, like we just said in Rashi, he's allowed to marry the wife of his brother. My lav, is it not, the nosva achiv keshuger, that the brother married her when he had already converted, meaning the brother had converted. It's exactly the machlokas between Rav Sheshes and Rav Acha bar Yaakov, and it seems like the Braisa is lenient, it seems to be a proof to Rav Acha bar Yaakov. And the Gemara gives the same answer that it gave on the previous Amud, lo, no, the nosva keshu Ovid Kochavim. The case is that brother actually married her while he was still in Ovid Kochavim, and that's why it's going to be permitted. The Gemara says if that's true, Ma'ila Memra, so what do you even need to say that for? It's so obvious. And the Gemara says, like it said earlier, Mahu Detema, what might you have thought? Ligzor Keshu Ovid Kochavim Atu Keshu Ger, that we should make a Gezeira in a case where he was in Ovid Kochavim because of a case where the brother had already converted, in which case it would be a problem. Kamash Malon, that's what the Braisa is teaching us, that we don't make a Gezeira in such a situation. Again, if the brother was still in Ovid Kochavim, then it's going to be okay for the other brother to marry his wife. And the Gemara continues, Amar Mar, the master said, quoting what we said above, Nasa Isho Vita, let's say he marries a woman and her daughter. Again, the case over here was the woman and the daughter and him, they were all not Jewish when they were married, and then they all converted. So the halach is, Kones Achas Umotzi Achas, so he can remarry one of them, but he has to separate from the other. He can't be married to both of them together at the same time. And then the Braisa said, L'chadchila lo yichnos, L'chadchila, he shouldn't marry. And so the Gemara says, doesn't even make sense. Hashta afuke mapik. Here you're saying motzi achas. He has to separate from one of them. That's afuke mapik. He has to divorce her. So lechatchila mi boy. So you have to tell us that lechatchila he shouldn't marry her if he's already divorcing from one of them. Of course he shouldn't marry lechatchila the one that he's supposed to divorce. And so the Gemara says, no, this line of lechatchila lo yichnos is not going on this line right over here of the woman and her daughter. Hasam kai. Rather, it's going over there. It's going on the line previously. We talked about the fact that he's allowed to maintain a marriage to his paternal half-sister. V'hachi kamer, here's what it means to say. Hachda Omer Rabbanan Yekayim. When the Rabbanan said that he can maintain the marriage, again, let's say to his paternal half-sister, so lechatchila lo yichnos, it just means he can maintain that marriage if he married her, but lechatchila he should not marry her. And that would be true for the other cases where the Braisa said Yekayim as well. Again, it means to say he can maintain those marriages, but lechatchila he should not marry into those situations. And the Gemara continues, the Braisa said, Mesa Ishto, if his wife dies, so mutter b'chamoso. So in this case of the converts, he's allowed to marry his mother-in-law. V'ika datani asr b'chamoso. But there are some that say that he's forbidden to be with his mother-in-law. And the Gemara explains, Chadak Rabbi Yishmael v'chadak Rabbi Akiva. One opinion is following Rabbi Yishmael, and the other opinion is following Rabbi Akiva. Man da asar Rabbi Yishmael. The one who says it's forbidden follows the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael. Diamar chamoso la'achar misa b'isura kaimer. Rabbi Yishmael holds that a person is forbidden to his mother-in-law even after the death of his wife, and the Isser is the same strength as it was while his wife was alive. V'gabe ger gazru bei Rabbanan, and therefore by a ger, the Rabbanan make a gezeira even after the death of his wife. Uman Deshari, and the one who permits it, Rabbi Akiva, he follows Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Diamar chamoso la'achar misa kolash le'isura, because Rabbi Akiva says that in general, the prohibition against marrying a mother-in-law after the death of one's wife is actually a lighter Isser. It's less of an Isser. V'gabe ger lo gazru bei Rabbanan. Therefore, by ger, the Rabbanan did not make a gezerah in a situation where there was already the death of his wife. Rashi over here says, Kalash le'isura delagabi Yisrael eina b'sreifa, meaning it's less, meaning by Yisrael. Let's say it wasn't converts, there wouldn't be sreifa in that case. It's a weaker isser, and therefore by a ger we do not make a gezerah. Rashi over here says, Hanach do'amar abban yekayim. Rashi earlier, again, all of those cases where we say yekayim, you maintain the marriage, the brisa means to say maintain the marriage, but the person shouldn't marry lechatchila. Again, kagon achoso min ha'av, like we said, his paternal sister, v'chavroseh, and the other similar cases. That's what we meant, like we explained above. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Chamesh noshim shenesarvu valdoseh. Let's say you have a situation of 5 women, and they each have a child, they each have a boy, and the boys all get mixed up, so nobody knows who his mother is. So higdilu hataruvis, when these boys grow up, the ones who are mixed up grow up, v'nasu noshim, and they marry women, v'mesu, and then they die without children. And so now these women have to do either yibum or chalitza. So arba cholzin la'achas, so what happens is 4 of them, 4 brothers are going to do chalitza to one of the women, v'yechon miyavamos, and one of them is going to do yibum with her. Rashi over here explains, shenesarvu valdosein zecharim, again, they all had boys and they get mixed up. V'yesh l'chol achas ben vadai shalom nesarev. Now, every single one of these mothers also has a son who she knows is his son who's not mixed up. So they each have 2 children. One, they're not sure which one it is, and the other they can identify. So arba cholzin la'achas means to say as follows. Ben vadai shall kol achas min ha'arba. Let's say the ben vadai, the certain son of 4 of the women, choletz la'achas man, does chalitza with one of these wives, with one of the widows. T'chol chad safek le'beishes achiv. Every single one is a doubt. Maybe this is the wife of my brother. Uben ha'chamishis, then the son of the 5th woman, Yisa'ena, he can marry this woman, mimanavshach, meaning he can marry her either way. If it's a situation where this really is the wife of his brother, Harei Tov, that's great, this is a situation of Yibum. V'im la'av, and if not, Harei Choletz lo Yevama, there's already been done Chalitza, so he can marry her. It's the same thing like she's marrying Lashuk, and she's already done Chalitza, it's not going to be a problem. And the Mishnah continues, Hu Shlosha, now he, meaning the one who does Yibum with one of the women, he and 3 others of the brothers, Cholz and La'achas, they do Chalitza with, let's say, the second woman, V'yachon miyavim, and then again, the one remaining one will do Yibum with the second woman. Nimtzu arba Chalitzos, V'yibum l'cholachas v'yachas. It comes out that every single widow is going to get 4 Chalitzas, and is going to do Yibum, and so now each one is going to do Yibum with a different son, and again, each one is going to receive 4 Chalitzas. Rashi over here says, Hu Shlosha, meaning Zeh Yibum, this one that did Yibum with the first widow, Choletz La'acheres does Chalitza with the next widow, Ushlosha Imo, and again 3 others do Chalitza with her, V'hachamishim Yavim, and again the 5th one is going to do Yibum with her, Mimanavshach, again it's Mimanavshach, it's going to work, because either it really is the woman that he's supposed to do Yibum with, or again she got Chalitza from the right person, and he is just marrying her. The Chosr Mashnayim Halalu, V'chotzin L'shlishitz, V'shnayim Imon, again the same thing, the 2 that did Yibum, they're going to do Chalitza to the 3rd, together with 2 other brothers, V'chamishim Yavim, again a 5th one is going to do Yibum, V'chein Kulam, that's going to be the whole way. Arba Chotzin Tchila, 4 of them first do Chalitza, L'fisha Ein Echad Rashay Liyavim Ad Sheyicholzu Lo Harba. The reason is because no one can do Yibum until 4 people all do Chalitza first. The Lo Lifka Be Yevamot L'Shuk. That way you can prevent a situation of Yevamot L'Shuk, just in case one of these 4 really should have been doing Yibum, so that individual will do Chalitza, and now she'll be permitted to marry L'Shuk, and she'll marry the 5th one. Now Rashi points out, the truth is, you could just have 4 of the brothers do chalitza with all of the widows, and have one brother, the 5th brother, do yibum with all of the widows. He can marry all of them. But the Gemara is going to say that it's actually better to do it this way, that each brother does yibum with one of the women. Why? Because maybe each one will happen to actually do yibum with the right one, and then you'll actually fulfill a mitzvah of Yibum. So it's better to spread the Yibum around to all of the brothers. That way it's possible that with each one there's at least a possibility that Yibum will have been done. And the Gemara says, "V'davka michlatz v'hadar yivuma." You have to do the chalitza first, and then you do the yibum. Rashi over here says, "Davka michlatz mikol arba havadoin." First, you do the chalitza from the 4 certain sons, v'hadar yivumi l'chamishi, and then the 5th one is able to do yibum. Avol yivumi bereisha lo, but to do yibum first, that you can't do. Again, like we said in Rashi, tekapaga b'yevamot l'shuk, because then you might have a situation of yevamot l'shuk. Because again, if you do yibum first, and it really was not the proper brother to do yibum with, and she hasn't yet done chalitza, that's exactly the problem of Yevamot L'Shuk. And the Gemara continues, Maihu shlosha cholzin liachas. Why do we say that he and three of them should do chalitza to the next woman? As Rashi over here says, Maihu shlosha mai ich bislon ichalzi lo hanachar ba gufayu v'haydi yavim lekamaisel yavim namihach. Why don't we say that the same one that did yibum to the first widow should do yibum with all of them, and the four of them that did chalitza with the first one, they should do chalitza with all of them? Why are we saying that every single one of them should do yibum with a different widow? This is the same question that Rashi already mentioned in the Mishnah. And the Gemara gives the answer that Rashi already said. And the Gemara says, we don't want to say that one of them does yibum with all of them. Rather, we would prefer to say that every single brother does yibum with one of them, because that way maybe they're going to happen to do the yibum with the widow of their actual brother, and they will all fulfill the mitzvah. That's why we prefer to do it in this fashion. And the Gemara continues now with a brisa that expands on the Mishnah. Miksasan achin and miksasan she'ein achin. Let's say you have a situation where some of them are brothers and some of them are not brothers. Ha'achin cholzin v'she'ein achin miyavmin. The brothers, they do chalitza, and the non-brothers, they do yibum. And the Gemara says, my kamer, what does this even mean? What is this brisa trying to say? Amr of Safar says, hachi kamer. Here's what the brisa is saying. Miksasan achin min ha'av. Let's say you have a situation where some of them are paternal brothers, miksasan achin min ha'em, but some of them are maternal brothers. Rashi is going to explain all of this. So achin min ha'em chotzin, those that are maternal brothers, they do the chalitza. V'achin min ha'av, and those that are the paternal brothers miyavmin, they're the ones that do the yibum. Again, yibum only applies by a paternal brother, so that's why the maternal brothers will do the chalitza, and the paternal brothers should do the yibum. Miksasan kohanim and miksasan she'enon kohanim. The brisa continues. Let's say some of them are kohanim and some of them are not kohanim. So kohanim chotzin, the kohanim, they should do chalitza. She'enon kohanim miyavmin, the ones that are not kohanim, they should do the yibum, because again, kohanim are not allowed to marry chalutzas. So that's why we have the non-kohanim doing the yibum, in case these women that they're doing the yibum with are chalutzas. Miksasan kohanim and miksasan achin min ha'em. Now let's say some of them are kohanim and some of them are maternal brothers. So elu ve'elu cholzin v'lo miyavmin. So then they should both do chalitza and not do yibum, again because the kohanim can't do the yibum because they might end up marrying a chalutza. And the achin min ha'em, brothers from the mother side, they're not allowed to do yibum, and so therefore they should do chalitza. And Rashi over here explains, Hachi garsinan miksasan achin and miksasan shein achin, achin chotzin shein achin miyavmin, my kamar. Again, the Gemara said, what exactly does the brisa mean? It means miksasan achin min oav, miksasan achin min oaim. Some of them are paternal brothers, some of them are maternal brothers. Miksasan shel vadoyin achin levnei hataruvas min oav, miksasan yeshlan bani taruvas achin min oaim shalom min oav, levad achin sheyeshlan besocho min oav. In other words, you have a situation where some of those that are in doubt are paternal brothers, but some of them have people in doubt that might be maternal brothers. And Rashi over here explains the case as follows. Kagon, for example, Ruvain shenasa Rachel v'Chana. Ruvain marries Rachel, and Chana, he has two wives. V'yoldalo Rachel es Yosef, and Rachel gives birth to Yosef, so Yosef can identify both his father and mother. He knows his father is Ruvain, he knows his mother is Rachel. Now, Gershel Rachel, now what happens is that Ruvain divorces Rachel, Vinasa Boaz, and she goes ahead and she marries Boaz, Velo ben meisha acheres. Now it happens to be that Boaz has a son from another wife. V'nisabra Rachel. Now Rachel becomes pregnant from Boaz. V'yolda hi, and now she gives birth to a child. V'chana ishto shel Ruvain, and also Chana, the wife of Ruvain, she gives birth to a son. V'gimel nashim acheres, and then there are three other random women who also, they all give birth to sons. Hey zecharim b'mei, they all give birth to 5 males, and it all gets mixed up. V'nisarvu, everything gets mixed up, so we have no idea when it comes to these 5 males. We don't know which one is the son of Rachel, we don't know which one's the son of Chana, and we don't know which ones are the sons of these random other women. So Nimsa sheyesh lo liyosef b'taruvas halalu bezachin echad min ha'av ve'echad min ha'im. It comes out that for Yosef, as far as he's concerned, when he's looking at these 5 gentlemen, so 2 of them are his brothers. One of them is his paternal brother, one of them is his maternal brother, and the other ones, they're no relation to him at all. And B'nah shel Chana achiv min ha'av, Rashi says, the son of Chana is his brother from the father's side, that's his paternal brother. U'v'nah shel Rachel, and the son of Rachel mi Boaz achiv min ha'im, that's the son of Rachel from Boaz, that's his maternal brother, but he has no idea which one is his maternal brother, which one is his paternal brother, and which ones are not his brothers at all. So achin min ha'im chotzin. So what it means is, as far as Yosef is concerned, since some of these individuals, or one of these individuals, is his maternal brother, so he has to do chalitza. He has no option for yibum. Yosef zeh sheyesh lo b'taruvos ach min ha'em. When it comes to Yosef, who among these mixed up individuals, one of them is his maternal brother, so cholitz l'kulan. He has to do chalitza with all of them. Liftor es eshes ach min ha'av, because he has to pater whoever is the wife of his paternal brother. Ve'eno rashay liyavim achas min. He can't do even with any of them. Afilu la'achar chalitzasa me'arba chaverov. Even after they all get chalitza from whoever they need chalitza from, because Shema Yivka be'eshes achiv me'imo shibakaris, because there's always a concern he might end up marrying the wife of his maternal brother, and that would be a problem of karis. Now, in a situation where you have the paternal brothers, meaning the other ones, they only have paternal brothers. There's no chance that there's a maternal brother in that mix. So so every single one of them is going to do yibum after the woman received chalitza from the other four. The other one, the fifth one, can marry her. So it's going to come out after you do all the calculations. One of them might end up doing yibum with two of the women, or you're going to have one of them that's going to do 5 chalitzas. This is exactly what it means. You have some of these individuals that you don't know about, so they're going to be a maternal brother to one of the individuals. But some of them are only going to be paternal at most. So the ones who might have a maternal brother in the mix, they have to do chalitza with all of them. But those who only have paternal brothers, but there are no maternal brothers, they're going to be able to do yibum. And then it continued over here, Miksasan shel vadoin v'taruvasan kohanim. Let's say you have a situation where some of the people who, again, they know their lineage, and those that are mixed up, they're kohanim. Or Miksasan shein kohanim, but some of them are not kohanim. So again, it's going to be the same basic idea. Kohanim, those who are kohanim, choltzin lekulan, they'll have to do chalitza with everybody, because they are not going to be able to do yibum, because it might end up being that they'll marry a chalutza. V'yefshel lem liyavim, it's impossible for a kohen to do the yibum in this case. Hoel v'choltza arba chalitza, since there were 4 chalitzas that were done with every single widow, Shema echad choletz lahaya Yevama, because maybe one of the ones that the chalitza was done was actually a real chalitza. She did a chalitza with her actual brother-in-law. The chalitza also chalitza, and it was a good chalitza. The kohen aser, but a kohen's going to be aser. So that's the idea. Again, if some of these individuals are kohanim, they're only going to have the option of chalitza. And similarly, if some of these individuals among the mix, they know they have some maternal brother, so they also are only going to be able to do chalitza. We'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tes Amud Aleph.